Old school, everybody. It's Ben and Michael.
The school does not get older than this.
Well, that's right. Yeah. We're about to be 105.
Yep, that's true. That's right. Combined, that's 210.
I saw a picture on my phone that I won't be able to find at Norman Lloyd's birthday, 104th birthday party, which was attended by Norman Lear,
right?
Who's 96.
Jesus.
So it was.
So that's 200
years old, and they look great. You know, they're shaking hands and they're.
It's 104 birthday parties of Norman Lloyd's that I wasn't invited to. Not one of them.
I'll see you. I could probably get you into the 105th.
Yeah, that would be good. He was 104 years old.
Yeah. So
nobody from the 1800s is left, right?
I don't think anybody from the 1800s is left. But of course, as you would imagine, my favorite Norman Lloyd story is that he was born during Wilson's first term.
That's crazy.
Yeah, but halfway through Wilson's first term.
It was post-Titanic.
Yeah, like when was the Archduke Franz Ferdinand? Do we know the month?
That Gavrilo Princip shot him, killed him.
No, I don't think that's it.
I don't. I don't know the month.
He might have been. He was late in 1914, so probably not.
Right.
But I like the idea that it might have been just before.
Right, it's amazing. That's old. Yeah, and I think that he was. I think he was early. I think it happened.
Yeah, probably. It wasn't winter.
Right.
Norman went to the 1926 World Series.
Jesus.
The Cubs and the Yankees, and he was already 12. He's got
crazy.
Fully formed memory.
And he is fully cognizant.
Oh, totally fully cognizant. I mean, he repeats some stories, but it's
there's stories you want to hear again, bro.
No, and his eyes aren't great, but I come in and
he's 104.
No, I mean, I get within 10 feet of him, and he's like, Ben, what a joy!
Right.
It's great. Yeah.
It's great, and he was like 50 something when you were born. 60 something.
Man, he. Yeah, I mean, and comparatively, Norman Lear looks like an athlete next to him.
Yeah, I've seen Norman Lear. I mean, he looks good. You had you probably talked about it. I don't know, not on an old school yet. Your festival.
Yeah, the TCM Classic Film Festival was this past weekend. We're shooting this on a Wednesday, so it was the April 11th through the 14th in
I love
Hollywood.
that festival, and I like watching Ben at that festival. It's when you see your friend do well at something, it's great, and that is really cool. And all these people know him. I mean, they're not people you want to know you, all of them, but most of them are. It's great. But so I was sorry to have been.
You were on the border.
I was on the border. Yeah. I was in El Paso.
So the festival is great. And there's just outpouring of love for, look, I every time I say this, it sounds like I'm talking to the media because I say the same things to the press, but it's true, and it's such a great, I hit on something that's true, which is rare when you're sort of doing PR interviews,
right? Yeah.
But like our channel there, this TCM channel means something to the people who are fans of it. Yeah. The actual channel does. They feel connected to it, reminds them of their folks and their grandparents, and connects them to another time when they, and the people from that time, to say nothing of, connecting them to each other. But and there is literally no other channel for which that is the case. I mean, if you love Ray Donovan, right? Which people do, I love Ray Donovan, but no one in the history of the world has been like, ugh. Showtime.
I mean, it means everything. Showtime.
Whatever Showtime has, I'm in.
Right.
No, sometimes you'd be like, this show's horrible.
There's one other channel.
Yeah, there is one. There is one. That's right.
We don't even have to.
I don't even want to talk about it.
Okay, that's fine.
But it's nice to be part of that and this sort of outpouring of support. But also, unlike, well, maybe that's true for that channel too. But because we have this responsibility to sort of preserve, protect, and present these movies. They don't just watch us. They watch over us. They're always like, hey, you did that. Like you took an important job. You got to do it right.
And it also, when you got that job, it wasn't easy for you at first.
No.
Not the work. The work was fine. But I just sort of remembered, us sitting around talking about, like, we would look at comments, and the comments were
you know, there was hostility to me, no question. And
but what were you gonna say?
You created a whole persona to be like, you were like, you know, Genie from Minnesota. You know, like,
love this guy.
He's so great. He's very handsome and knowledgeable.
Right. He knows so much, and don't hold it against him that he's new. But you do understand why. For those people, now in retrospect, then we didn't, but now in retrospect, we understand why it was difficult for them to adjust to something new, because they own this thing. There's a sense of ownership. They don't want you just to come in here, knock the doors down, and be. And
as always, because it's something that is such a critical part of their lives, yet they have no control over what happens to it. So they're like, "What is this? You're screwing with it. You're messing with it." Right. And after a couple of years, they're like, "Oh. All right, you're not."
Right.
You know, this is okay. And you know, we all hate change. You hate change as much as anybody on the planet,
if not more.
Yeah. And so, you know, I get that. Yeah, I understand where that came from. But also, maybe it was you, somebody on my side, like, tracked it and was like, there's 7 people,
right,
leading this, and like 2 mainly.
Yeah,
you know,
and we know that now also from the Turks. Like, I mean, when you see comments and those sorts of things.
And this was, you know, this was message boards in the days before Twitter. Right. I imagine Twitter would not have been a hospitable place for me.
In those early years, no, it would not. But now it would have been great, actually. And now it is great. But I'm saying that it was tough, but we didn't realize then, I don't think, when we would sit around and talk about, how is this happening? I'm just trying to do my best job here. Yeah. We realize now that it goes into what you were talking about before. It's like this ownership of the network.
Right. They do.
They
feel this. They feel the sense of ownership, and so therefore to protect it. Like, this is something. But also, one of the things when we started the festival that I did, and this is our 10th festival, so 9 years ago, like, you know, when they gave me less to do, I would go to the main Roosevelt Hotel and in Hollywood, and I would just hang out with fans, and I would take photos, and I would talk to them, and that sort of, you know, and like that worked for me. That helped me, in fact, because then on literally comment cards, hundreds at least of people saying, "Boy, I tell you, it was great seeing Robert introduce the movies, but Ben's so accessible," you know? And so I'm super busy, but I still make sure that happens, because that sort of really did sort of play a role in them having more confidence in me. So it's nice, and it's nice to be, and that funny thing happens, so you're at the festival, and it's like a couple TYT people were there. And for those 4 days, I mean, it's like I walk into the party. I'm Mick Jagger, you know, and
that's part. I mean, it's like, and then I sort of like, I'm like, no, he's
right.
Like, and then when they push me someplace, I was like, no, you don't understand.
I don't understand. Yeah. So you get this thing, and there are people, and they want to take pictures, and it's exciting, you know. You know, and you got to get to a place, so you have to say, "I'm so sorry, I gotta go. It's crazy." Right. And then the festival ends on Sunday night. And I stay out in Hollywood until Monday morning, and I go home. And I always go back across the street to check out them tearing down the place Monday morning. Right. And I walk across the street, and I'm like, "Hey, how you doing?" Looking at everybody, and
nobody
you know,
knows you.
They're like, they don't speak English because they're visiting from Peru or Argentina or the Soviet Union, you know, and they don't, you know, and they're like, "Who's this guy? Why is this guy smiling and giving me the peace sign?" "Hey, how you doing?" "That's right, you're catching a little glimpse of me." Yeah. And then as soon as if I went to a movie Monday night in Hollywood, I get up there and I'm like at the same theater, and then they're like, "Name?" And I'm like, "Mankiewicz, spell it." I mean, okay, did you RSVP? No. It's like, "Well, we got those seats." You know,
it's so fun.
I mean, it's gone. But
it's like Mitt Romney when he lost his Secret Service the night he lost the election.
Oh, was that right? They cleared out.
They cleared out. They
really?
Totally cleared out. I don't even know why they did, but it was a big story that was written. All the credit cards, too, for the people that worked on his campaign were canceled that night, so they couldn't even get rides home. You know, they were at that. It was a terrible thing. But yeah, I mean, then when that ends, but then at least you get to do it every year. It's not like it's your one festival, right?
No, we do a cruise too, and the same thing happens on the cruise. Whatever, we do all these fan interactions.
Then you go back on a cruise the next week, and nobody knows you.
You're on a gambling cruise the next week, a real cruise.
Is there no gambling on the?
No, it's a Disney boat. Disney doesn't have that. Disney has, I think, one of their ships has a casino, but they don't have it.
I like how you corrected boat to ship within 7 seconds.
The great thing about the casinos on the ships is it is, even if you don't gamble, it's like this meeting place in the middle
Right.
of the boat where everybody hangs out.
Are you allowed to gamble if you were?
Oh yeah, no. Those first 2 years, I
gambled,
lost heavily. Yeah. I had one great night, the first cruise or the second cruise. That was my initial exposure to 3-card poker.
Right. Well, then you came home raving about it.
Right, because I got 2 straight flushes, right, where you put down a $10 bet and then they give you $400. You're like, that's the greatest game ever, right? Yeah, and then that never ever happens again.
Never. I've sat and played 3-card poker with you.
I don't think either of us ever won a hand when we've sat next to each other. Yeah, and you don't even lose slowly,
right?
Because it is slow. But because you lose every hand.
Right, it goes slow. It's like Caribbean Stud used to be when they used to have that game.
Before we figured out that was horrible.
It was good though, like if you lost like a bunch of money really quickly at craps or blackjack, I'm gonna go lose slowly over
I'm gonna go to Caribbean Stud and it's gonna take me 48 minutes to lose this $200.
Yeah.
It's gonna be a little more. So I was looking today at the political news and Terry McAuliffe not running for president.
Which is, I think, good for Joe Biden, and that sounds ridiculous. It's good for Joe Biden because Terry McAuliffe is a prolific fundraiser. I mean, he can tap into a network, and Biden, my guess, is going to try and really get into that network. And I think McAuliffe will probably support him and tell his money people to support Biden.
I certainly have my opinions about what will happen to Joe Biden, assuming that he does enter the race.
Yeah.
But of course, I might be wrong. Either way, I'm so interested to see what happens when Joe Biden actually enters the race.
Right. Yeah. No. It's hard. It's hard to predict what's going to happen. I think it's interesting. There are a lot of people who think, well, why is he waiting? Why is he waiting? I think waiting might be the best thing he can do right now. But only for so long, because I don't think he has anything was to be gained by announcing 2 months ago.
No, I agree. Yeah,
and I don't.
He's Joe Biden.
Yeah, exactly. Right. It's not like and his name recognition. It also shows you the power of name recognition. He's in first or second in every poll.
Yeah, at first in almost
all polls. Yeah, but I think as it's worn on and he hasn't become a candidate, he slipped to second in the Sanders poll, and Sanders is doing some things to lift himself up a little bit too. But. It'll be interesting to see, because I think that he's one person that these Democrats who are running can run against, that they can actually single out.
Mm-hmm. I read today that the Sanders people, I think so far for them everything's gone pretty perfectly.
Yeah,
right? They're ahead of the people who are running solidly, right? And
Buttigieg has stolen O'Rourke fire. And O'Rourke would have presumably taken some of Sanders' support. Warren has not gotten off on the tracks yet.
It's almost impossible to see how I would vote for her today, hard to see how she gets past him given the share.
Getting past doesn't seem to be happening.
So, that they think things are going perfectly, that they have the same thought about Biden that I do. And again, I'm quite prepared to be wrong, but that his best day will be the day he declares, or the next day, and then it'll just be a slow.
I mean, that's an easy prediction to make, because for most people that's the case.
Right,
but O'Rourke it was for everybody.
I think it'll feel much worse if Joe Biden is suddenly mixing it up for third with Kamala Harris and Pete Buttigieg.
Well, yeah, I don't think that he will mix it up for third. I think he'll either go for first and then not do well, and then that'll be over.
That's what I mean. I just think it'll be like it might.
Or he'll do well and he'll pump.
Of course, right.
Yeah.
But there's a scenario where it sort of ends quickly, and then all of a sudden there's a family, and he's back out 5 weeks after being in.
The interesting thing is going to be when the field starts thinning.
Can't believe you didn't say winnowing.
Yeah, I thought winnowing is going to be where these the people who are supporting the non-Sanders candidates go.
Right.
And presumably there won't be very many of them, because the people that are leaving because they don't have a lot of support. But I mean, if Klobuchar and Booker and O'Rourke and Buttigieg and
once
where did those voters?
So I was talking to somebody yesterday at the dog park. Obviously, if Sanders is at 30, 27, right?
Right. It was an owner, right? That you were talking
So yes, how do those other 73, like that's why seeing second and third choices, like how many of those 73% hate him or fear him, right? For various reasons. Fear that he'll lose, fear that he'll upset the country, fear that he'll get Howard Schultz to run and hand the election to Donald Trump. I'm not saying any of these things are true, but just things that people think. And how many will be like, all right, well, then my person's out, I guess I'll support Bernie Sanders, right?
Yeah.
You know, no one fully knows the answer.
No,
to
but
that.
he's behaving in such a way as I know who I have, and now I know who I need.
Yeah, that's right.
And I think that that's part of what makes it so fascinating is this run versus 2016.
And they think that they're right around the number that they may need. Like, you know, the 30% is fine for right now. So.
Right, for right now.
Yeah, for right now. Yeah.
But somebody else is going to have a great day, and Bernie's going to have a bad day. I mean, because it's just going to happen.
Right.
And something's going to happen. And you know, this Buttigieg thing, people are flocking to this guy because they don't know him, right? Because there's no old story about Pete Buttigieg that they don't want to keep telling, right?
I mean, like I read today that that in order to raise money in South Bend, he did what so many municipalities do. I'm sure you saw this too. You know, sort of increasing fines and tickets that falls on a population that can least afford to do that. And I'm like, okay, that's not a. That's the horrible Pete Buttigieg story.
If that's the horrible story, you're fine. But I mean, and it's a horrible story if you're running for re-election as mayor of South Bend, right? But when you're running for president, people don't think about that. But I mean, the horrible story could be that there's not very much there if that's what it turns out.
Right.
That he's this likable
maybe there's not
guy who
substance.
only has white support and that has some support.
And the media's fascination with him could, the same way I read this today too, that makes complete sense, the same way that mainstream establishment media, not to sound like jank, but big time media, and that they're like Donald Trump can't win. I thought it, right? Yeah. They're sort of like, oh my God, Pete Buttigieg. It's like he's their kind of candidate.
Totally their kind of candidate, and totally, and I'm not a big media outlet, but he's available to everyone.
Right.
I emailed their press guy the day before I went and covered him in Nevada, and I said, "Hey, can I come to this thing tomorrow? And can I get a few minutes with the mayor?" Yes.
Right.
And nobody's ever heard of I-24 News. So the fact
and if you'd done that with to Kamala Harris's press person, probably not.
No, I mean, I did it with Kamala Harris's press person and didn't get that.
Right.
And so I did it with Amy Klobuchar's person on the day before and didn't. I just showed up and I got a minute with her, but I got a minute in a gaggle. And you saw the difference. Like I saw it as a reporter. The night before when I was with Amy Klobuchar, there were 5 reporters, not very many. And she wouldn't do any one-on-ones, and she took one question, then got out of there. And and when your cameraman says, she's never going to win, right? you know that, and nothing against Klobuchar, right?
From Ohio?
Exactly. You know that there's something happening. She should be there talking.
Of course,
and that's the difference. The next day, you saw what was there, and I said that to her press person. I said, you know what? Everybody's talking to us. Everybody's talking to all the press. Why the senator didn't, I don't know. Maybe she's tired.
Why the senator at 1% isn't is a little peculiar.
Yeah, exactly. It's a little peculiar.
And you see the thing that caused people to, I think, to speak about her in terms of a possible win. I think the same way that sort of, again, people have been covering this for a long time. This belief that, oh my God, a Midwestern practical Democrat, like the thing that made people fascinated with Dick Gephardt and tell the time when people had to vote for Dick Gephardt and they weren't into it. It's like, so they did it with Klobuchar, and I thought, no, they're not going to vote for her. I don't. But then, so they're like, they'll vote for this guy, right? They just instantly.
Totally. And she's not winning anybody over right now. And I did what I do very often, which is before I interview somebody who I think I'm going to have a hard time getting, is I read about their parents or their kids, right? And I say, so I asked her a question. She moved on, and the person said no more questions. I asked about infrastructure too, which was my way in because I didn't really care about infrastructure, but that's her issue. I mean, I care about it, but that's not why I was there. And then when it was all over, I said, hey, can I just get one Jim Klobuchar story? That was her dad. She said, I'll always stop for a Jim Klobuchar, And so
that's very good, right? Yeah.
And so I got one more question, but then that was my, I asked the Jim Klobuchar. That wasn't the question I wanted to ask, and that was it.
Right.
Like I thought that would open me up for 2 or 3 questions, but it didn't work.
Can I get one Jim Klobuchar?
Yeah, well, Jim Klobuchar was he was a reporter. So I said, hey, with all this press freedom stuff and people not, and this disrespect that the press is getting, can I just ask you about what would be like in a Klobuchar administration? And then I was going to ask the questions that I wanted to ask, and I never got to those.
I saw one spirited defense today of the New York Times manner in which they covered Neera Tanden and Neera Tanden's mom, which, again, this was a Twitter story that the rest of the country couldn't possibly care less about. No. But I'm into it. And so the story was that
But that's an important thing, though, that you just said. How things seem enormous on Twitter, and because you're following us,
all these people,
just like that. That's your.
How could the New York Times exploit Neera Tanden, 78-year-old? So the New York Times, Peter Baker and somebody else, right? Was them? Was that who did it?
It was Peter Baker, but I don't know.
And so anyway, they cover. Maybe it wasn't even them, but anyway, so I saw him respond to something else today. So the New York Times does a story on Neera Tanden and the Bernie Sanders fight, right? And she's runs the Center for American Progress, and they quoted her mom, and her mom didn't realize, according to her mom, that she was on the record and that it was going to be. She thought it was like in a profile of Neera, and it was sort of then those quotes were used to make Neera seem like a power hungry. Power hungry and reckless when need be,
aggressive.
and aggressive steamrolling people. Again, things that could have been portrayed as positive for a political operative, but maybe because she's a woman, who knows? All kinds of issues. But anyway, there was a backlash to it, but some reporters were like, "No, what are you talking about? That's crazy." One great way to get at a story when you're doing any profile is to get the moms.
Right.
They're filled with stories.
Of course.
And they're gabby, right? So they were like, go to the moms. That's what we do. Like, stop knocking it. Of course they went to the moms.
Absolutely.
Right, and they got good stuff.
And that's what you get when you go to the mom.
Right, yeah, and then, but anyway, hope that controversy dies down soon. So we can really refocus on the issues.
That the country can refocus.
The country can finally refocus and stop worrying about Neera Tanden's mom. So anyway, it's all super interesting, and I'm waiting. I'm very interested to see like what happens if you again, second choice, third choice. Those questions must be being asked.
They are being asked. I mean, they're always asked, but so many people haven't made their first choice yet. And when you're out there, like everybody, I went to a Buttigieg event in Nevada, the Klobuchar event, union thing, and everyone I talked to. Not just a few people, everyone I talked to, wearing an Amy button or a Pete button. Have you made up your mind? Is this your candidate? No, I'm just still shopping.
Right.
Why are you wearing the Amy button? They gave it to me. Right, yeah, exactly. I just want to beat Donald Trump. I'm still shopping. Nobody said to me, I'm behind Mayor Pete the whole way. I want him to do this. Nobody said it about Klobuchar. Nobody said it about Cory Booker when I was in Alabama. I mean,
all that is another reason, though, why Bernie Sanders' advantage is significant. Because most of those people, many of them anyway, are in.
But I don't know that. But that's the thing. I don't know that these people would then go until he's the nominee. If he's the nominee, would then go to Sanders. No,
we don't know. We know the Sanders people are. They know who they're for.
They know who they're for.
Yeah. That's what I'm saying.
And many of them have already been down that road.
We don't know, and of course it depends. Many of them will say, "No, I'm not for Sanders now." But if it's in 4 months and it's pretty clear he's going to be the nominee, I imagine most of them will go to Sanders.
Guess that O'Rourke's going to have a resurgence after Buttigieg slows down a little bit. Of course he could. And then there's Biden, which is why this is an appealing landscape for him. Yeah. Because in one fell swoop, he could just get a ton of the Booker, Klobuchar, Gillibrand, O'Rourke, Buttigieg people to say, "You're not Bernie, we want you," and see what happens.
Right, which is what he's that's his upside scenario.
Which is why the wait is perfectly understandable.
Yeah, and even though they can say that because if he's successful, I mean, if there's an appeal. Then all this talk about that he's going to be way behind in fundraising. If he doesn't do well, then he'll never catch up. But if he comes in and instead of going down, he sort of goes up, well then money will pour in.
Yeah, no question.
All right, that wraps it up.
Now we're done. And then there's a debate in June. So,
June. That's crazy. Where's the first one?
Miami.
Miami. You're going?
I'm going.
No, it's very exciting. Very exciting. And they're going to spread 2 nights, right?
2 nights, yeah. So you get more candidates than you know what to do with. Andrew Yang had 2,500 people at his thing at the Lincoln Memorial, at least 2,500 people. And he's going to have more when he comes to Los Angeles on Monday.
And so he might make the debates, or will make the debates likely, and Julian Castro might not.
Might not make the debate, yeah, if he doesn't get the requisite donations.
That's crazy.
I know. Well, yeah, his candidacy is interesting because in other years he would be somebody we'd be focused on. He would probably take up. I mean, he was a Western mayor and a cabinet secretary, and he's Hispanic. So why not Julian Castro? Why Pete Buttigieg? You know.
Yeah, it's just the thing that makes people good politicians and less good politicians. I think. You know.
Yeah. Well, yeah, and it's also press availability.
Yeah, but
for Buttigieg anyway.
But I think, I mean, from when the first time I saw Buttigieg, I was like, oh, that's interesting. And the first time I saw Castro, I didn't think that. Just in the, doesn't mean.
He looks like Congressman Joaquin Castro.
He does look a little like him. Yeah. And it's not like that he's not, this is nothing, that's the crazy part of politics. It doesn't mean that you just inserted Julian Castro. Do we go Julian?
Julian. That's what he goes with.
Well, then, so Julian Javier.
Right.
Who I think was Stan's dad.
Really?
I think so, yeah.
I didn't know that. Really?
I mean, I really think it.
I mean, yeah, no, I know. I guess it could be. We'll ask Norman Lloyd.
Julian Castro might be great at presidenting.
Right.
Right, but I'm just saying the thing that makes you think, well, I'm interested in the next thing this guy has to say, which happens with a lot of people with Buttigieg.
That's the thing with these things. And that's really the thing with Biden. I think Biden would be great at presidenting and won't be and hasn't been a great candidate for president. And there are people who are great candidates like O'Rourke who may not be as good at presidenting.
So Cenk and I were talking, because Cenk and I met Joe Biden together with the Young Turks in 2003 in Washington. There was this event for left-wing radio, right? Which in 2003 was like Ed Schultz, me and Cenk.
Randy Rhoads was.
I'm sure Randy Rhoads was there. Randy Rhoads would have been a high profile.
Yeah.
And then, a lot of ponytails.
Yeah.
Right? A lot of guys with ill-fitted shirts and ponytails.
Yeah.
And Biden came in and spoke and talked about Iraq, right?
Briefly, right?
Yeah, he only had a couple of minutes, so he was there about an hour and a half,
right.
And he was amazing. He was so smart, right?
Yeah.
And he was the first person who seemed that we'd heard in any sort of official capacity who seemed to understand that there was a Sunni Shia Kurd distinction that people should be paying attention to.
He coined the tripartite solution.
Right, and so he's talking about that. And then my memory is it was Cenk. Cenk's not sure. And then he went around and talked to people, and it's Joe Biden, so he was right here, right? And my memory is that he was talking to Cenk, because Cenk, of course, went up to him and asked questions, and he's talking, and he put his forearms on Cenk's, because he's so tall, and he put his forearms on Cenk's shoulders.
Yeah.
And their foreheads were almost touching, and he was leaning forward, and he's so big, and it was like he looked like a coach instructing and simultaneously consoling a player who had made a big mistake. But
it's like that famous picture of Lyndon Johnson with the senator backing up.
That's right, yeah. But this was much more, avuncular. He was really like sort of, explain. And it was like, listen, if you don't get back on D, he's gonna beat you. I know you got it in you, son. I know you got it in you, right? We go out and get him. It's okay.
That's the Uncle Joe thing. Yeah.
But I just remember thinking, I've never seen anybody talk this closely to another person with their whole body on them.
He's completely been affectionate forever.
Right.
And
so I'm not excusing smelling somebody's hair or coming up behind a woman in any way, but it is certainly part of his.
Yeah. I don't see that there's anything nefarious in what he's ever done with that. It's made people uncomfortable, but Anyway, that
but
doesn't matter.
It was just striking. And Jack says he's not sure it was him, but either way, it was at that event, and that was just.
I told the story that where I faked that I worked for the Italian embassy.
So great. Yeah.
And then I was with J.D. Scholten, who ran against Steve King in Iowa, and J.D. Scholten said to me, he said, I think we're gonna have Biden out here. And they say it's what they say. They say the easiest thing to do is to get Joe Biden to come to a campaign barbecue, and the toughest thing to do is to get him to leave.
Yeah, he likes these things. He likes.
It's good. I mean, that should make him a good candidate. People like Joe too. I mean, the people that do. I just don't know how many new people he's going to be able to attract.
Yeah. All right. So we're done with YouTube tonight. Thank you very much. But we'll stick around.
Never really done with them. But.
Stick around for the podcast and linear, and of course members.
Like what you see? Of course you did. It was old school. So click the subscribe button below, and don't forget to ring the bell to never miss another video from the Young Turks.